All right, so I was taking a look at Ipet Go 2 and I noticed something. So in this classroom scene, you've got the little girl here, Lily is her name. And most of you probably already know she represents the October 2nd annular eclipse that's coming up for a number of reasons, one of which is that she's got this ring like of honey around her on the floor. The honey, of course, represents Rosh Hashanah, which happens around the same time as that eclipse. And then you've got this little dot right here of honey, which represents Mercury, which is adjacent to that ring eclipse. So if you look in Stellarium at that eclipse on October 2nd, you've got the ring eclipse, and then you've got Mercury right adjacent. And of course, this is happening in Virgo, which is why you have this little girl here. She's sort of representing Virgo. She's representing she's representing Rose from Song of Songs. She's representing the Bride of Christ. She's representing Virgo. It's kind of like multi-layered. And a couple of other things that Constantine showed me is that the bunny here that's also lit up when the room darkens, which is lit up with her, is representative of that eclipse because that eclipse actually goes over Easter Island. So this is the eclipse path right here. It starts near around Hawaii and then ends around the Falkland Islands or so, but right in the middle of the path, right here, Hangaroa, otherwise known as Easter Island, it has 100% totality over that island, hence the bunny, like the Easter bunny. So I thought that was a pretty cool find. And something else that he showed me, let's see if I can find it. Okay, so if you look at the shape of her hair, of her bang, it matches the shape, or the path rather, of that eclipse. I mean, you kind of have to turn it to the side and mirror it or reverse the image, but it sort of uncannily matches the shape of that eclipse. I think there was another reason why this represents that annular eclipse. I can't remember at the moment. But what I wanted to show was, okay, so that's your reference point, right, in time, that eclipse, right? So she represents the eclipse. And the apple represents the moon. So when the apple is rolling, it's representing like the movement of the moon. However, the rolling apple also hides a possible day count because it rolls over a total of 21 tiles. First, it drops on this tile right here and then exits it, and then rolls over 20 tiles, and then enters the last tile by Obama's shoe. So that first and last tile count as one because despite being two tiles, there's actually only a single exit and entry for both. So that's one tile, and then it rolls over 20 more. So that's a total of 21 tiles. So let's take a look at that real fast and count them. All right, drops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And then there's the exit tile. All right, so the apple has entered and exited a total of 21 tiles, corresponding to 21 days. And then we already have our reference point in time, which is, Lily and the circle drawn on the floor around her, which represents the October 2nd annular eclipse. So then you might be thinking that, okay, we go from that eclipse forward 21 days. But remember that Satanists love to do things backwards. So we're going to go backwards 21 days from that October 2nd annular eclipse. So let's go into Stellarium. So here's our annular eclipse. And so we're going to go backwards from this date of October 2nd, 21 days. And we're also going to be tracking the movement of the moon, which is marked by this red reticule here. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And we can see that it takes us exactly to September 11th. And where is the moon on that date? Well, it's right here to the right of the Sagittarius constellation. And you can see that the bottom part of the constellation lines of Sagittarius, adjacent to Corona Australis constellation, forms an L and a C. And then if you look in Ipet Go 2, where the apple stopped, it's directly to the right of an L and a C. Okay, so that L and that C to the left of the apple, which represents the moon, matches what's in the sky. You've got this L and then the C to the left of the moon. The L, of course, being the bottom part of the constellation lines of Sagittarius, and the C being Corona Australis. So yeah, it's amazing that 21 days going backwards from that October 2nd annular eclipse takes us right to 9/11. And on 9/11, the sky looks just like what is shown on the floor of Ipet Go 2 after the apple rolls across 21 tiles. So they seem to be saying that something will happen either on 9/11 or when the moon is in the constellation of Sagittarius, which is where it will be on 9/11, 9/12, and 9/13. Which is interesting because there's also this Economist cover from, I guess, 2022, November 5th through 11th, 2022, which says, say goodbye to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Of course, ostensibly that's about some kind of climate target, but C is the third letter, so that's 153, and 153 represents the church. So they appear to be saying, say goodbye to all believers when the moon, represented by the apple here, is in the constellation of Sagittarius, represented by the arrow here. Now, in addition to that, I also think that Leave the World Behind might be showing us the moon in Sagittarius. Now, I've already shown in my last couple of videos how Leave the World Behind first shows hints for the third quarter blue moon of August, and then they show hints for the new moon, and that took us to September 3rd. So the next thing that they show is the partial lunar eclipse on September 17th. So I guess about 3/4 of the way through the film, they show this lunar eclipse here, okay? They make it look like a solar eclipse, but it's a lunar eclipse because if you look at the positions of the heavenly bodies, when you have the Earth in the center and then the sun on one side and the moon on the other side, that corresponds to a lunar eclipse from Earth's perspective. So, but they're looking from the perspective of the moon, so it kind of looks like the sun is eclipsed, so it looks like a solar eclipse. So they show this, and then right afterwards they show something. I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so right after they show you that partial lunar eclipse of September 17th, they show the husband offering his sleeping wife this glass of drinking water. And as James M. Explained to me, at this point in the film, the daughter, Rose, has gone missing. So that represents the rapture because she represents believers. And so what are they showing with this glass of water? Well, they just showed the partial lunar eclipse, and that lunar eclipse begins in the constellation of Aquarius. So that's a connection to the water. So I thought at first that's what this water means. It's just sort of reinforcing that eclipse reference, that lunar eclipse reference. So are they simply saying here that the rapture will occur on or near that partial lunar eclipse? I guess it's possible, but I think they might actually be giving us hints, showing us that it'll be before that with this shot. So first of all, notice that this is shot sideways, so there's got to be a reason for that. And also notice that the glass is 2/3 filled. Okay, so I think what they're showing us here is the glass represents the moon that's at 2/3 illumination. So like 66 or 67% illumination. Okay, and then with the water to the left, as it's shown in this shot, they're basically telling you that from the perspective of the moon, the constellation of Aquarius is going to be off to the left on the ecliptic. So let's take a look at where that will be. Okay, so on 9/12, on September 12th, the moon will be 2/3 illuminated, okay, 66.8%, close enough, and it will be right here in Sagittarius. And it's going to have, and you have the water off to the left here, just like you have the water in that glass off to the left. So this seems to match what they're showing us in that scene. So that's, 5 days prior to the partial lunar eclipse. So that was the morning that Rose was missing. So they might be telling us with this clue that that's when the rapture will happen. And there's another thing in this film that I thought was pretty wild. I never noticed it before, but James M. pointed it out to me. You've got this mural or painting or whatever of the ocean in the bedroom of that vacation home. So if you notice, like the water level keeps rising as the film progresses. In this painting, it's kind of spooky. So in the beginning, this is how it looks. So this is when she's first arriving and checking out the house. As you can see, the water level at this point in the film is, 8 inches above the backboard of the bed. And then towards the middle of the film, they show the painting again, and as you can see, the water level has risen substantially. And then a little bit later in the film, they show it again, and it's even risen from that point. And at this point, really bad stuff is happening. Her son's teeth are starting to fall out and stuff. But really what they're just showing you, I think, is the coming mega tsunami event, the water event that's going to come soon after the rapture. All right, so the next thing I want to show is an explanation for the number 88 found in the film Donnie Darko that I discovered. And I believe I talked about this film a few videos back. So if you remember, his last name is Darko, and the film starts on October 2nd. So he primarily represents that October 2nd eclipse. And at the beginning of the film, he sleepwalks in the middle of the night to this golf course, and there he meets this man in a bunny suit who tells him that in 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds, the world will end. So those numbers add up to 88, as many of you know. So what is the meaning of that? Well, what I discovered is when he first actually gets out of bed and sleepwalks, this is the scene right here. They actually show an eclipse here because you'll see his head blocks the light. So that's their way of showing an eclipse. Right? Just like that. And they have him in this very awkward pose, and you can see the blankets going down to the lower right. And so you have this line formed right here. It's kind of hard to see. So I have a picture that lightens that scene a little bit. And you'll see that that line actually matches the path of totality of the first great American eclipse, the one that occurred back in August of 2017. So with the scene, they're showing you that eclipse. And right when he gets up, they reinforce that, because right after they show that 2017 eclipse, they show the American flag, just to reinforce the fact that they're showing you that first great American eclipse. Okay, so at that point, he goes to the golf course and meets the man in the bunny suit, and he tells him he gives him this number 88. And Donnie Darko represents primarily that 10-2 eclipse. So the meaning of the 88 is that between this eclipse here, this first great American eclipse, and the upcoming October 2nd annular eclipse, the moon actually goes around the Earth exactly 88 times. And that's the reason why he's given the numbers that add up to 88 by this bunny at the golf course. And the reason that the number 88 is spread out like this into days, hours, minutes, and seconds was explained to me by a brother on Twitter named Blank Check. And it's because this is the format that lunar periods are usually given in. For instance, a lunar month is on average 28 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, and 3 seconds, which, by the way, also adds up to 88. But they couldn't use those numbers because that would have been way too obvious that they were talking about a lunar period. So they just mixed up the numbers a little bit, but the numbers still add up to 88. So that's the clue that they're talking about a lunar period. So, and like I said, the 88 gives you the number of lunar periods between those two eclipses. So it's 88 revolutions of the moon around the Earth between the first great American eclipse and the October 2nd annular eclipse. And according to this film, that's when the world will end. But I think that they're using the October 2nd eclipse as just a sort of time reference, and that the rapture actually happens a few weeks beforehand, like I showed in Ipet Go 2 and Leave the World Behind. Alright, so the last thing I want to show is from the film Knowing. And that film is also about the rapture and the end of the world. And there's a part in the film where the little boy named Caleb scratches some numbers into a wooden desk, as you can see right here. And so this has become a sort of code that a lot of us have been trying to figure out unsuccessfully. But somebody on Twitter, I think his name is We Know Your Game, solved this, in my opinion. So not so much these last numbers, which are kind of ambiguous anyway what they are. They look like 445, but it could be 4115, who knows. But mainly these numbers here that are clearer. That's 15523. So what he found was, from the release of this film on March 20th, 2009 to September 12th, 2024, it's exactly 15 years, 5 months, and 23 days, matching that 15523 code. Or if you use inclusive counting instead, it's 15 years, 5 months, and 23 days to 9/11. So it just depends on what type of counting you use. And then if you look at that number as a date, it's 15/5/23, or in other words, May 15th, 2023. From that date to 9/11/2024 is exactly 1 year and 119 days. So that's like, if you take that number and reverse it, it matches 9/11/01. So this code is pointing either to 9/11 of this year or 9/12 of this year. 9/11/24 or 9/12/24. So in my opinion, this is pretty compelling. I consider it the correct solution to the knowing code.